Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe Theodore, and thank you for joining me today. So, my friends, Pluto is in Capricorn. The final 2 months of this ever being a transit we ever see. Our children's children will not even see a Pluto in Capricorn transit. Or maybe children's. Is that 3 children's or 4 children's? Maybe by the 4th generation, they might see it. 200 and something years. That is a long, long time, my friends. So we are in a massive moment. Now, personally, I feel like I've been just so busy that I don't even know if I noticed anything different. I feel like I've been a little frustrated in the last couple of days, to be honest with you. And I'm going to get honest with you guys today. I'll try to be more honest here, actually, with with things that go on maybe in my day to day. But I'll be honest. I'm a human. You know, we're humans. And I feel I've just been like weirdly frustrated, you know, the last 2 days. And I'm wondering, you know, if this has anything to do with Pluto going back into my 3rd house. Sorry, I had a brain fart. I mean, it would make sense. The 3rd house is the house of Gemini, right? And I have my Neptune there. But no other planets. But, you know, I haven't really thought about it. I just know, like, hey, I wonder. Because usually we feel ingresses the day of. Like, we feel a shift, right? But sometimes with the outer planets, they're not as noticeable because they're transgenerational planets, right? They happen very slowly. On the world stage, we see things a lot louder. And that's something that is very important to always keep in mind when we deal with outer planets. Of course, in our natal chart, we know how they play out, you know, what the story is, the energy that it provides our life, or the the struggle it provides our life. But when it comes to the transits in the sky, like Pluto dipping back into Capricorn, 29 degrees, I feel like a lot of us might have sensed something differently. But that could have just been the collective influence upon us. Like, I know when it comes to politics, which it's so easy for me to talk about politics, geopolitical matters in astrology, as many of you know. But it's like the last 2 days, things have gotten louder with certain things, right? Like according to election season in the United States, everyone in the media says, well, September 1st really is like that official, there's exactly 2 months left to the election, pretty much, which is crazy in itself. I mean, if you don't believe in astrology and you just can listen and you know a good astrologer that can explain some of this stuff, I mean, you cannot make this up. Pluto dipped back into Capricorn. The United States has its Pluto at 27 degrees. We're essentially back at the Pluto return, you know, degree within a 5-degree orb, less than a 5-degree orb. And we have one of the most intense elections ever in United States history, based upon the candidates involved and what's at stake, according to some people, right? Which there is. I think this is a very, very intense election. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of politics, guys, I promise. I want to keep this as symbolic to the astrology as I can. But it is almost impossible to not talk about the world, though, when you talk about Pluto going back into Capricorn. It's insane. So September 1st is typically, you know, there's the true launch of election season. And Pluto literally went back into Capricorn. Literally, we're having our, I think, 3rd or 4th Pluto return. Because again, for the last 2.5, 3 years, Pluto has been traveling over 27 degrees, back and forth, retrograding, going direct again, retrograding, finally dipped into Aquarius this past February. It's back in Capricorn. And as of this winter, as of mid-November or earlier, about right after the election, literally like almost days after, Pluto will go back into Aquarius, and that's it, guys. We are in the age of Pluto and Aquarius. So as the election is being denied, which it will, we all know that's going to happen, the age of Aquarius will begin. And I'm saying the age of Aquarius involving Pluto and Aquarius, okay? Because 20 years is a long time. And for my country, for example, this is a defining moment on where we go, what happens, right? So this is insane. And I've been saying this in other platforms, that what this really represents for America, for the final explanation of what this Pluto return means. For my country itself, it means, what does democracy mean? What does America actually mean right now? Like, did the American experiment work? Are we fractured? What's going on? Are we actually united? Like, this election is really defining for the world too. And then zoom out for the world. What does this mean for the world? Well, the world has been colonized in a way and has been influenced by America and the West, right? For hundreds of years. So whatever happens to America is a ripple, right? And however that translates to however you take that is what it is. But for the world, this Pluto return affects the world, right? We have so much going on in the world. And then another interesting thing that this Pluto return manifested in the world, and I promise this is where I'll end it for politics, is a news story this morning that I read, is that apparently the United States found a nuclear site where Russia has apparently a brand new kind of nuclear bomb. Now, when Pluto first had its first return, when it first got to 27 degrees, Pluto, that was literally the weeks leading up to when Russia invaded Ukraine. And that's actually, guys, when I first really got into mundane astrology. Because a friend of mine was tracking, when I used to be on Twitter at the time, there was a huge astrology community there. And a friend of mine kept posting about all this stuff, all the transits happening. I think there was a giant Saturn, Mars, and Pluto conjunction, if I'm not mistaken. Something was going on with Pluto and Mars, I believe. Definitely Mars, the god of war. And Pluto, Pluto is definitely associated with, nuclear stuff. Pluto was discovered, I believe, right around the time when the nuclear age began, in the 30s, 40s. I'm pretty sure that's when Pluto got its name, Pluto. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. but plutonium, right? Pluto, plutonium. There's always these weird synchronistic meanings that kind of flood together. So when it comes to astrology and how things are kind of created as far as meaning is concerned. But the fact that a story literally like that came out this morning, where the United States, somehow, maybe with spy satellites or whatever, saw a site in the middle of frickin' nowhere in Russia where they believe that there is a brand new nuclear bomb that they made and it's being held there. And literally Pluto just went back into Capricorn during the Pluto return. And this happened, Russia invaded Ukraine. And there was, I don't know if you guys remember the news, that first month, the world was like, holy shit, Russia invaded Ukraine. And there was a lot of fear around, will there be a nuclear war, right? There was a lot of that. So the US had its Pluto return. All of a sudden, we're talking about one of the biggest superpowers in the world trying to do a land grab, an old school land war, like World War II style. And the talks of nuclear war became like a normal thing. People were even buying the Radion. What is that medicine people can take to prevent radiation poisoning? I mean, this happened as we had our Pluto return, guys. So this morning, that story comes out. Nuclear bomb is in the news airspace, even though the mainstream media is not talking about that because there's the election and all this other stuff. But still, that is a wild synchronicity. Okay? But what does this mean for us? Well, the last 15 years I believe it's 15 years, since 2008, Pluto has been in Capricorn. A lot has changed for me, when I think about my life, for that part of my life, my third house, so much has changed. I've grown in so many ways. I've done so many things. I don't even feel like the same person anymore. I feel like work and working on things, like the Capricorn part of my life, is very, very focused on, again, like, what do I need to do to succeed in the world? Like, what do I need to create in this world? You know, the third house for me is, yes, how we communicate and connect with others, you know, and for me, that's just been a big part of my life. How do I come to the world, and how do I use my skills, my words, my writing, you know, because I've always been a writer. I think the end of this transit for me is kind of, you know, for me being sort of like, you know, really stepping into my own as an astrologer, doing a lot on social media, being a voice for astrology, helping people one-on-one now, and doing a lot. You know, I feel like my career, so to speak, is like finally finding itself, you know, after doing a bunch of different careers, but always being a mystic, you know, at heart, and always knowing that somehow merging my mystical nature, if you will, with something to, you know, to have as a job. That's been a huge part of my Capricorn story in my third house, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about my fourth house experience in Aquarius because, oh my God, I do not know how Aquarius will treat me in my fourth house, because Pluto will be going opposite a lot of planets for me in Leo over the next 20 years. But again, I don't want to speculate and meditate on that or waste your time talking about myself. But I do know a lot of things will change with my home. Like, I already sense a lot of things that could change in the next 5 or so years with what I consider my home. You know, and Aquarius wants to be inventive. Like, I'm at that point in my life where I want to maybe own property, like more property, I guess, in a way, or move for sure. I'll just say that, like, move. And, you know, I work from home. So there's this whole Aquarian being inventive and you know, different. So now there's like a very platonic lesson for me probably that will be involving working from home, doing a lot of content, growing my business from my house, which is a dream come true, honestly, for me, because I've worked in the public space for like 15 years in various different ways. I was in the entertainment business too for a long time as a screenwriter, you know, so not many people know that about me. Grinding in New York City. So for me, how I view my home and my personal space and my private life is going to be very, very highlighted, transformative. And again, I don't know what Pluto is going to do. Pluto will, of course, bring intense shamanic revelation and transformation there. Probably a lot of pain at some point. I mean, I know my parents are getting older, so at some point during the next 20 years, there's always that possibility, right, where you start to lose people. So Pluto will provide, in one way, shape, or form, either the old age of my parents, where I'm going to see that phase of life kind of be wrapping up, you know, even if they're still alive after 20 years, of course. So there's going to be a shamanic awakening somewhere. You know, I'll be halfway into my 50s. So, I mean, think about your life, right? Think about the next 20 years. Think about what we've been through. You know, what did Capricorn teach you? What did that part of your life, what transformed there to lead you up to the next house of Aquarius, which is going to be the complete opposite of what we experience energetically with Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius is like the progressiveness. It is the inventiveness. It is a visionary, a creator. Things are unique there. We express whatever goes on in that part of our life more than half of the time in a very alternative, unique way. We could be a little bit more inventive and original there in our life. A little alternative, a little rebellious, right? Where Capricorn, that part of our life is really, really like, we take it seriously, you know, to a degree. And things could have happened to us in that part of our life that were very serious, very Saturn-like. And in Aquarius, ruled by Uranus in modern astrology, but also ruled by Saturn. So I think a lot of us are still going to have work to do. You know, there's still going to be a seriousness to the lessons that Pluto will bring. But Uranus is what makes this electrifying, which makes the next 20 years unpredictable. But I feel we need that. That's what Aquarius is beautiful for. It's air. So we don't know how it's really going to happen, what's going to happen. But the surprises, I think, will be greater. And I think the transformative experiences we might have in that part of our life will be very deep, very, very deep. And for those of us to pop out the other side of this, when it gets into Pisces, when Pluto gets into Pisces in 20 years, when those of us who are still on the younger side, we're going to look back and we're going to see what happened. I mean, hopefully humanity's still here. I mean, if you want to get real, but we're going to have a lot of work to do still with Aquarius, but it's a path forward that seems like there could be hope. Like, I feel like as we got halfway through Pluto and Capricorn, there was like a dimming of hope and optimism around the world. Things have just been getting worse in some ways, even though, a lot of people say, if you zoom out, the world has actually been more peaceful than it ever has in history. I mean, go back to the Middle Ages and tell me if it's more peaceful now or not. I mean, it was definitely more gruesome back then. So if you put things in a perspective, yeah, there's a lot of horror in the world, but generally speaking, the secular age and post-enlightenment, the philosophical enlightenment of the 1800s, late 17, early 1800s, really brought an intellectual and spiritual renaissance that has made people more open and loving to a degree, right? And accepting, which is why we're in such a political war right now, at least in my country, because we're dealing about dogmatic beliefs merged with secular politics that should be kept separate. But for some reason, it's like everybody wants to come back to this orthodoxy, of this kind of like Christian Sharia law, kind of stuff. But also the rise of fundamentalism, period, full stop. People think that's the answer to combat the world issues, when the reality is all we need to do is be more loving and transform ourselves through love, honestly. And I know that sounds hippie, but if we work hard enough to accept others and to do the right things with rules, Saturn still wants rules and restrictions so we can have boundaries and we can learn how to be disciplined in life. And that includes all aspects of life, to respect boundaries, So Saturn's still going to have that influence in Aquarius. There will still be restrictions in many things. But Pluto, I think, really wants to transform the world and the systems and institutions that we have into something more inspiring, more accommodating to all people. And on a collective level, I think that's why there's so much upheaval, because it's like the old world is fighting against what the new world is bound to come. Right? That's why I keep saying, like, hardcore conservative, like religious and super conservative political values is like going back, and I'm not trying to quote, the Harris slogan here, but you either go back in time to the way things were, where, yeah, women's rights are getting more taken away in America. If certain people are in power want to do that, they want to really limit things. And again, it's because religious belief that is a problem. Because in Europe, I don't think they even some people that are apparently on the right, the right in Europe and religious, they don't care if people get abortions. Like, they don't care, right? It's not a big deal. In America, it is the biggest deal. So Capricorn is almost like the conservatism movement, and Aquarius is almost like, okay, this is the progressivism that the world needs. And that doesn't mean Democrat. It just means, like, are we going back to the old ways of men and of patriarchy and of strict rules and orthodoxy, or are we moving into something more unifying? Whatever that looks like, whatever that means to you, however you take that, right? But the world didn't get to where it was by just staying in the Stone Age or staying in very, very set ways. I mean, barriers have been broken for decades, maybe even over 100 years at this point. And it's because of progressive ideas. And again, I'm not saying this politically, just inventive, innovative, right? The freedom to think and believe and act as one wishes to a degree, to build a new world, to build a new future. And that's all we want too, if you really think about it. Yeah, some of us want to stay in one place and be conservative in our own ways. And by conservative, I mean just like, just more old fashioned and more calm and peaceful. Where Aquarius, where that is in our birth chart, we do think differently. We do act differently there. And Pluto wants to really transform that and provide a death and rebirth in some way, whether that's a metaphoric death and rebirth, or for some of us, we might actually have to go through some literal deaths and rebirths around us, right? So again, I'm not going to speculate on your life story, when it comes to that, but in recent consultations I've had with people, in almost every single reading I bring, Pluto comes up. We talk about Pluto in Aquarius because a lot of people are on the brink of stuff. And everyone I talk to, when we talk about that theme of life where Aquarius is, everybody has a story there. Like a real profound story, enough where they bring it up for me in the reading without me asking. And then I go, well, Pluto's about to spend 20 years in what you're talking about. So there's going to be a lot of success for some people. A lot of people I know who I was reading for who had a lot of like business endeavors there, or just stuff that they've been wanting to have happen in their life. And I'm like, well, it's going to come because Pluto is arriving and it will transform everything about that place. So again, guys, for the next 2 months, we are going to be retasting activations from our Capricorn life, whatever Pluto did there for you. Maybe, honestly, most of us might not feel anything. Most of us might have learned lessons or have gone through it enough where this could just be a worldwide collective manifestation, Like what's going on in Israel the last couple of days, they found some hostages. And again, they're protesting in the streets because they want that Netanyahu guy out. They want that deal done. Even the Israelis want that ceasefire deal, or whatever the case it is, whatever they want, But again, an activation of something serious in war. This has everything to do with America as well, because we fund them. We give them everything, including parts of Europe as well, that helps them out, right? With weapons and all that stuff. So Pluto goes back into Capricorn and this manifestation happens, right? And everyone in the United States in politics is like, oh my God, like we just want this to be resolved. Like, I think, again, I'm not speaking for the government on that geopolitical issue, but still it's a problem for the United States that is not, whatever's going on over there, it's a problem for us. That's it. So Pluto back into Capricorn, re-triggering a lot of things on the world stage, involving war for sure. Russia with the nuke thing, like I said earlier. We can include this Israel thing that happened yesterday. That the IDF found those hostages dead. My election, massive U.S. Pluto return moment. And maybe that's all this is going to really be for some of us. Just we're going to be getting hit wave after wave with all these geopolitical manifestations. Getting reminded of what Pluto in Aquarius has done to the world, which has transformed politics, which has transformed the way we view institutions, for example. Trump became a movement that is now something that is spoken about around the world, whether you love him or hate him. Trumpism is a thing. And he came into the picture in the middle of Pluto and a Capricorn. And in the middle of a Pluto transit is usually where we see, oh, okay, this is where the world's going now. Oh, this is what this story's about. So that's why geopolitics, political stuff, my country, the degradation of other things going on around the world, as far as politics and leadership, and how the younger generations are coming up and they go, no. We want these dinosaurs out of our life, meaning the older politicians. It's time for some kind of a revolution, not saying a bloody one, but just one that could be done intellectually. I think we're on the precipice of another intellectual revolution, and Pluto will do that. Pluto going into Aquarius, ruled by Uranus and Saturn, and we're talking about the zodiac sign of rebellion, of inventiveness, of a new world, of the collective, of humanitarianism. We're talking about younger generations wanting to get rid of the old stuff. And Pluto is here for it. And it's got its popcorn. So again, on individual level, guys, you might know what this might mean for you. You might already sense it. You might already be understanding, just in the last, 6-7 months since it's been in Aquarius since February. We're starting to feel a little bit of it. In my fourth house story again, just things getting a little bit more home oriented for me. My private life becoming more of a priority. Thinking about where I might want to live one day other than where I live now. How can I transform my life by working more from home and building, maybe a studio one day, something a little bit more where I can really be comfortable in my workspace rather in this room here that you constantly see me in. There's going to be a lot of changes with my home and my inner home too. I feel that I'm going to have to work through a lot of inner stuff while I'm growing now. As a entrepreneur, astrologer, mystic, guide for others. So, but still, what Pluto will actually do, I have no idea. But I know by the end of 20 years, I'll be in my 50s and I won't be the same person I am now at 37. So I'll be pushing 60. Holy shit. And that's, guys, I know there's some older audience members out there. I didn't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, believe it or not, guys, I'm a late bloomer. I have Saturn in the second house for me. So for me, growing into my own, even with my self-worth, has taken time. I've always been a late bloomer. So honestly, I haven't been happier to a degree. So I feel the older I get, the more happier I'll be, to be honest with you. So being healthy is very important, guys. Health is very important. That's something I've really taken seriously over the last couple of years. My health. North Node in the 6th house, guys. So health is very important to me. And it's necessary for me to, even succeed at all every day. Anyway, my friends, that's all I have for you today. I hope you found this enjoyable. I know it's a little bit of a long one, but please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Connect with me for a reading if you would like. All the information is down below, and I'll see you next time.